Some people wake up and drink coffee. There are people who wake up and do yoga. And there are people, like the woman in House 12, who wake up and choose to disturb the peace of others as their morning exercise. She has no known job, no young children, but she does have a clipboard. And in this neighborhood, a clipboard is as dangerous as a court order in the wrong hands. It was a sunny Saturday. I was in front of my house, shorts, tank top, hair tied up anyway, cleaning my bike, music playing softly on my cell phone. Nothing that could be considered an auditory assault. And yet, she appeared, stepping out of the shadows like a soap opera villain who takes herself too seriously. Steady step, sunglasses, paper in hand. You are in violation of the HOA bylaws. Article 5.2. Misbehavior in the common area. Misbehavior for washing a bicycle in shorts on a Saturday. I stopped, took a breath, and asked as patiently as my blood would allow, and exactly what part of my behavior offends the regulations. She pointed her finger with the confidence of someone who thinks they've read the entire Constitution, but only memorized the part about maintaining the visual harmony of the neighborhood. Inappropriate exposure. You're wearing clothes that don't match the neighborhood's family standards, and the music contributes to a hostile environment. Hostile. A Norah Jones song at Volume 3. The hostility was all in her gaze, in her desire to impose an authority that only existed in her head, and, perhaps, in the WhatsApp group of HOA sycophants. I tried not to laugh, but my blood boiled. I washed the bike again as if nothing had happened, and that's when she crossed the line. She pulled out her cell phone and started recording, talking loudly, theatrically, saying that she was recording an incident of inappropriate behavior for documentation purposes. She wanted the stage, but she forgot that the play had another protagonist. When she saw that she wasn't going to get an apology out of me, she threatened to call the police. And she did. On speakerphone, right there, in the middle of the sidewalk, as if he were ordering a pizza. Hi, yes, I need a car. We have a resident breaking the association's rules, refusing to cooperate, a situation of contempt, and possible disturbance of order. The call was so absurd that even the birds seemed to stop singing for a few seconds. I waited for the call to end. She put her cell phone away with the pride of someone who thinks she's about to be checkmated. What didn't she know? The offender's father was the town's mayor. Yes, the man who signs the police chief's salary, and who, at that very moment, was sitting on the balcony of my house, having coffee with my mother, watching everything in silence. The woman didn't notice. She was too busy savoring her own attempt at public humiliation. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. 2 officers got out of the car with that, "Why are we even here? Look." They greeted her, listened to her completely distorted version of the crime, and turned to me with a confused expression. "What's your full name, please?" I answered with my surname and everything, and right then, one of the policeman's eyes went wide. He checked with his partner. The other just nodded, in a silence that said it all. The woman continued talking excitedly, but she was interrupted by one of the officers. "Ma'am, let's talk across the street, please." She didn't understand. She looked at me, looked at them, and only obeyed because she still thought she was winning. They talked to her for about 5 minutes. From a distance, you could see her countenance change, from excitement to confusion, from confusion to discomfort, and then to silent panic. She came back with a face whiter than the flyers she used to stick on her neighbors' doors. She walked past me without saying a word. That same afternoon, the president of the association sent me a message apologizing on behalf of the community. A timid, formal, and completely desperate apology, because the news had already leaked out. One of the officers told another, who told someone in the town hall, and the gossip arrived before sunset. She thought she had the power to arrest someone for listening to music and washing a bicycle, but she forgot that real authorities don't carry spreadsheets. She wasn't arrested, but her image? That one has started to do time. That Saturday afternoon continued with a strange taste in the air. The woman was gone. No controlling walk around the block, No new flyers on the neighbors' doors. The gate to her house was closed, the windows down, and the clipboard. Well, they say it was left on the sofa for days, a symbol of power abandoned by its owner. But while she was hiding, the neighborhood was talking. The story spread like wildfire. It started with the residents group, went to the barbershop on the corner, arrived at the newsstand, and landed in my father's office like a bomb wrapped in recycled paper of bad manners. And the most interesting thing, I didn't tell him. It was the civil guard commander himself who called the mayor. An informal but direct warning. One of our officers has been called to attend to an incident involving your daughter. Everything under control, sir. But I thought you should know. He did. And when he found out, he didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't make a fuss. He acted. On Monday, the woman's name appeared in 2 emails, one from the city's legal department asking for clarification on the HOA's conduct towards citizens outside the board, and another from the Community Relations Office requesting an extraordinary meeting with the association's members. The agenda? Review of limits of authority and actions of the HOA. What was supposed to be just another episode of neighborly pettiness became official business. And she still tried to pretend it wasn't happening. On Tuesday, she showed up in the morning sweeping the sidewalk as if nothing had happened. She was dressed in white, wearing a wide-brimmed cap and smiling at the neighbors who pretended not to see. Only now, she was no longer just the bossy woman in the neighborhood. Now she was the woman who tried to have the mayor's daughter arrested, and that weighs heavy. Reactions began to emerge from where she least expected them. An older neighbor, who until then had been her biggest defender, let loose in the group. We've created a monster, and now we don't know where to put the leash. No one answered, not even to defend him, not even to disagree. Silence was the new uniform of shame. On Wednesday, the meeting took place. Not at anyone's house, not in the church hall, but in the town hall itself. A private room, strong air conditioning, and an empty chair at the end of the table, hers. It took her 20 minutes to show up. She arrived panting, with an envelope in her hand, and the look of someone who has rehearsed apologies in the mirror, but forgotten half of them on the way. She began by talking about a misunderstanding, overzealousness, and commitment to order. She tried to justify the call to the police on the basis of previous instructions from the board about behavior in the common area. She was interrupted by a legal advisor. "Ma'am, there is no authorization in the HOA bylaws to activate security forces against residents for dress or for peaceful use of their own residential space. What happened was abuse and illegal embarrassment." She swallowed. She lowered her eyes. Someone from the community committee asked her if she intended to continue in office. She stammered. She said that she did, that she still believed in the association's mission. One of the residents, who never opened his mouth at any meeting, raised his hand and said, "You don't understand. It's no longer about what you believe in. It's about what we tolerate, and you've gone off the deep end." The meeting ended without a formal decision, but the message was clear. Her authority was hanging by a thread, and the thread had been unraveling for some time. On Thursday, the returns began. 3 members of the HOA resigned. One apologized directly to the group, saying that he does not condone intimidating behavior. Another returned the key to the association's headquarters. And the third, more direct, wrote, "I wasn't elected to be an accomplice in vanity theater." Meanwhile, my house became a place for restrained smiles and indirect messages. Some said, "Go on, you've done well." Others just gave a respectful nod, the kind that is worth more than any spoken compliment. One neighbor left cupcakes on my doorstep with a note, to sweeten the bitter taste that woman left on the street. The flavor? Chocolate, filled with justice. The woman's silence was no longer tactical. It was fear that more people would open their mouths, that the story would gain more momentum, that the newspapers would learn that the lady who loved to quote decorum had already ordered the uprooting of other people's garden plants and threatened to fine dogs for barking out of turn. On Friday, the City Council announced that it would reevaluate the role of residents' associations. They would revise the boundaries, create new guidelines, and oblige any representative to undergo legal training. The reason? A recent case of abuse of power that exposed flaws in the system. They didn't name names, but everyone knew who it was. The following Saturday, the street was no longer the same. It was as if someone had uninstalled the latest update to the neighborhood's oppressive system. People started walking more slowly again, chatting on the sidewalks, watering plants without fear of receiving a warning ticket. The woman, who once looked like a walking HOA billboard, was now just another faded figure trying to camouflage her own arrogance with silence. But poorly cured arrogance always has a way of coming back. On Monday, an image appeared in the residents' group that looked like a montage, an open letter with her signature. 4 paragraphs of pure semantic juggling. It was an apology dressed up as a personal manifesto. A text full of words like disproportionate, distorted view of the facts, and that final pearl that almost made the neighborhood fall off its chair. At no time did I intend to harm anyone. The letter tried to justify everything on the basis of zeal for the community. It said that the call to the police was a thoughtless act motivated by years of dedication to order and peace in the neighborhood. It even tried to portray itself as a victim of political persecution because of the surname that, until the other day, no one dared to question. The problem? The peace she claimed to protect was the same peace she was crushing with rules invented at dawn. The neighborhood's reaction was immediate, not in words, in actions. No one commented on the letter, but in the days that followed, what happened spoke louder than any response. First, a group of residents organized a joint effort to repaint the community playground. The one she always said was off the charts because of its bright colors. They used exactly the same paints she'd had removed the previous year. Bright red, phosphorescent yellow, and even a neon blue that shone in the sun like a painted affront. Then they changed the name of the neighborhood WhatsApp group. Out went Comunicados HOA, Residential Valley Verde, and in came Rua que pensa por si mesma. The group's icon was replaced with an illustration of a megaphone with a flower coming out, poetic and symbolic. Her letter, printed out and nailed to the trash can in the playground, was found scribbled all over with phrases like failed mission, authoritarianism with glitter, and Madam HOA. She didn't say anything, but the curtains in her house, which used to be always open to watch other people's movements, are now closed. The president of the HOA, who had already left so as not to be swallowed up, issued a new statement. For an indefinite period, the association's activities are suspended until the management model is completely restructured. Translation: the power she used to threaten was now a blank sheet of paper, waiting to be redrawn by those who actually lived there and knew that coexistence is not imposed with letterheads. At the same time, comments began to circulate that she was considering suing the town hall for institutional harassment. It was so absurd that it became a meme. A neighbor posted a picture of her wearing a sheriff's hat, and the caption, "The only authority she has is in her own mirror." Meanwhile, my father's office was going strong. The revision of the rules governing neighborhood associations was already in its final stages. The new bill would require any HOA to operate with open elections, mandatory assemblies, and, above all, limits defined by law. And every member would have to pass a course in conduct and community law before taking on any position. The whole town would change because of a miswired connection, motivated by vanity. And the most ironic thing? The woman thought she was punishing someone by calling the police. In the end, she reformed the entire system, only unintentionally. Her attempt to control the neighborhood exposed how these associations, when run by small people with a thirst for power, become mini-garden dictatorships. She could try to rewrite her own narrative, but the neighborhood had already written hers. Now, when someone raised their voice in the group, People would say, "Calm down. You're not going to call the police about this, are you?" And everyone laughed. Even the most embarrassing story can serve as a warning, especially when the protagonist turns out to be exactly what she was trying to fight: a mess. The street was different, not in the asphalt or the facades, but in the atmosphere. People seemed to be breathing better, as if an invisible weight had been removed from the air. The woman, once omnipresent with her clipboard, disappeared like an app deleted after years of cluttering up the cell phone. Her house was now just another one, without power, without vigil, without those eyes that scanned even the way the neighbors swept the sidewalk. She tried to hold on to the post. She sent in a new election proposal, disguised as rebuilding trust. But no one wanted to take part, not because they were busy, but because no one else wanted to put on a play that had already been booed. Her meetings were now held only with the echo of her own voice. The peak was when she had new flyers printed, this time with a more human visual identity and a slogan: "Unite to Rebuild." She distributed them from house to house. Most of them went straight into the trash. There was one resident who stuck the flyer to a lamppost with an arrow that read, "Joke of the Year." Another turned the back of the paper into a sketch pad for a shopping list. The response from the town hall wasn't long in coming either. The new regulations for the associations were officially published. The text made it clear: no HOA could impose penalties, make contact with authorities, or apply rules without a registered vote and consultation with the neighborhood population. Everything she did was now expressly forbidden. She tried to pretend it wasn't about her, but when the clause prohibiting the undue use of security forces was read out at a public hearing with her name circulating by word of mouth, it became impossible to deny. The world now had a lock on her, and there wasn't enough appeal to clean that up. Little by little, her house lost life. The balcony, once full of coordinated decorations, became empty. The garden stopped being pruned, and the windows remained closed, as if in mourning for a power that would not return. Her car didn't leave the garage for days. It was as if every honk in the street was a reminder of the public embarrassment she had caused and starred in. Then, on a cloudy Thursday morning, with no announcement, no goodbye, a removal truck pulled up in front of her house, silent, discreet, with helpers who seemed to have been hired in a hurry. In less than 2 hours, everything was packed. There were no curious neighbors peeking through the curtains. Everyone knew it was the end, but nobody had to watch. The only person who approached was a lady who lived 2 blocks down. He walked over to the sidewalk, looked at her calmly, and said, "You could have been remembered as someone who wanted to help. You preferred to be remembered as someone who had a girl arrested for washing a bicycle." She didn't reply. She just swallowed, climbed into the passenger seat, and drove off. The street was silent for a few seconds. Then the noises came again. Children running, neighbors watering their lawns, low music coming from the house next door. The neighborhood was alive again. No checklist, no invented rules, no informal supervision dressed up as zeal. In the place of the HOA's old headquarters, an adapted garage that it used as a control bunker, there is now a small community library, donated by the residents. No bureaucracy, no bylaws. Take a book, leave a book. A system she would never approve of. And that's why it works. A month later, during the neighborhood spring festival, they put up a little sign in the playground, next to the colorful painting she tried to erase. Here you play free, here you live lightly. No one mentioned names. Nobody needed to. The lesson was engraved between the lines of the street. Today, when someone tries to bring up the subject of too many rules or excessive vigilance, all it takes is a raise of the eyebrow and the sentence, "Watch out. Do you want to be next?" Everyone understands. And life goes on. No clipboard, no patrol, and freedom restored. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a comment and a like.